I often talk on the different shows that I do about the therapy that I did. And when I was younger, I was sent to every therapist, I think, that existed in my area and within my school. And none of them were right for me for different reasons. And then as an adult, I went to a psychotherapist, and her therapy was unlike anything I had ever done. And I always say to people, therapy isn't just about going to a therapist. It's about finding the right person for you, somebody that understands you energetically, whose work resonates with you and works with you. Because I don't think that every person is a good match for every person. The other thing that really worked for me was this woman would see me. So she didn't have the shamanic side, but the work that we did was probably a little left of center to what other people would do. But we would sit around her kitchen table for the first part of the session, and we would just talk like a normal counseling session. And then we would move on and do the deeper work. And her sessions were always 2 hours. And I said to her one day, why are we doing 2 hours? And she said, because when you go to a normal therapist, it's 60 minutes, but generally 50. And the first 40 minutes, you're having small talk and you're talking about all the insignificant things that mean nothing. And just as you get to what it is that you really need to work on and dive into, ding, time's up and you've got to leave and the next one's coming in. And she said, so it's almost impossible to get to that work. And she said, there are people that come in and we dive straight in, but for the most part, people are uncomfortable with just laying it all out there immediately. And just when you talked about the first therapist that you went to and the fact that just as you started to go, time was up, that was what sort of brought that up for me. And so I'm curious, how long are your sessions? Do you do the hour and you just get your people right in there, or do you go for an extended period?
What's really interesting, Natalie, is since I started writing, which has been a very long time, and people, there's a whole building up of trust that you do with your therapist before you open up to them, which is normal in any relationship. And it's almost as if my clients skip that part because they feel that they know me, because I'm authentic in all of the things that I say and do, and I come across as me. And so when they come to me in a session, oh, it's you, and they're straight into it. But I decided a long time ago, because a lot of the energy work can be long, and you know, this is where the shamanic part comes in. A lot of people get trained in energy healing, and they're given lists and lists of instructions, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you ask them this, and then you do this, and then you do this. And I always felt very caught by that. So you could have a structured 2-hour session where you do all of these things and then you do all of those things. I said, no, I don't do that. I meet them exactly where they are. So my sessions are like a catalyst for process. And what I've learned over the years, if they're longer than an hour, then the client is too tired, it's exhausted, and the magic usually happens when you're pressed for time. So there was a time, I'd say in 2018, 2019, I was doing half-hour sessions for people who couldn't afford the hour session. I thought, well, I'll be of service to them for the half hour, but we did just as much work in a half an hour as we did in an hour. And I found that I was putting as much of myself into those half hours as I was in the hour. And the pressure was too great for me. So I stopped doing those, and I stick with the hour. But what I'm finding now is that the group sessions are so quick, and that the healing in general is so quick that for me as the healer, I honor myself in that hour, because I would get agitated listening to what we call in counseling and psychotherapy roads and weather. I'm not interested in roads and weather. You're coming to me, we're not talking small talk, we're going straight in for it, and I warm them up with the questions. And if they don't feel they're ready, then you don't have to book in. And there's plenty of material, as I said, around that you get the feel for who I am and go, yeah, I want Abby to come in. And what I found also is I get people who come to me who have been going to therapy for years and years and years and want to break out of that pattern. because I don't book anybody in next week. I don't. We do the hour, we go deep, something shifts, and then I take a big step back and I say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here if you need me again. You sit with this, you see how you go with the shift, because it's disempowering to say, yeah, you need to come to me for follow-up and you need to come to me again after that. I think people are adults. And in my training as a psychotherapist, they presented people to me as children, where they're dependent. There's going to be this codependent relationship. There's going to be projection. There's going to be transference. There's going to be all these things you need. But for me, that's a two-way street, and I'm not going to allow that happen. And I've got 4 children. And I decided right in the beginning of my training, those were my babies. My children were my babies, and my clients are going to be responsible adults who show up and I can help and guide them, but I'm not doing the work for them, and I'm not going to allow a codependency to come into play. And that's really set the scene for the type of work I do, which is why I'm not for everybody. And I do understand that some people want to move very, very slowly, and that's fine. And I understand that people might not want to do the work at all and just talk and just get things off their chest, and that's fine. So I'm very happy to now be specialized in being a catalyst for people who are empathic, who have done work on themselves already, who can't move past a person at a specific point. And usually the people that come to me are incredibly powerful people as well, which is wonderful. And they haven't felt safe to show themselves to a therapist who they might feel isn't as powerful as they are. And it's difficult to say that, because then we're admitting, well, some people are more powerful than others, but it's just a thing. It just is.